Hello. In this video, I will do a universal math placement exam 2. So let's begin. Okay. Question 1 says solve the following inequality. Okay. So we have 4 parentheses 3 minus x. Let me go up. Yeah, we have 4 parentheses 3 minus x plus 18 is less than 5. So this is not a test point method. You could just solve for x and just go from there. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is check if there's anything you can do inside the parentheses, 3 minus x. No, we can't. So then what I'm going to do is FOIL out this 4 because of the pandas, right? Order of operation. So I did the parentheses. There's nothing you can do inside. We have no exponents. We do have a multiplication, right? This 4 means multiplication. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times negative x is negative 4x. And then plus 18 is outside, so bring it down. Do not FOIL out the 4 and the 18 is less than 5. Okay. Then what you do is collect like terms. So you have a negative 4x, and you have 12 and 18. So if you have a calculator, that in, get 9 out. So 12 plus 18 is 30. And you have less than 5. And then solve for x, so you're going to subtract 30 from both sides. 5 minus 30 is negative 25. Divides by negative 4. And then because you did divide by negative, you do got to flip the sign. So it's now going to be positive 25/4. So that would be letter A. X is greater than 25/4. Question 2, which of the following numbers represent inside this number? This small number, see, it's a small number, 0.000347882. That's technically a very small number in scientific notation. So this is how I know when to use. So if you look at the answer, they have a times 10 to the power, right? So if it's a small number, it's the power is going to be negative. This is how I remember this. And if it's a fairly large number and you want to turn it into a scientific, the power is going to be positive. Okay, so our power is going to be negative because it's fairly small. So it's going to be times 10 and then a negative power. Then what I'm going to do is move the decimal between 1 and 9. So I'm going to put it between 3 and 4. Now you can't forget about these numbers, 3, 7, 8, 2. So you do have to include it. So it's going to be 3.4782. And then our original decimal point was right here. We got to move it, and then we moved it here. So how many places is that moving? That is a 1, 2, 3. Wait, one, two, ah, 1, 2. Is that 1, 2? Yeah, I think that's 3. Double check. No, it's actually negative 4. I mean, 4 places. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. Okay, so this is my answer. Okay, so in this one, when you're doing scientific notation, if it's a small number, your power is going to be negative. If it's a very large number and you turn it into scientific, it's gonna be power is going to be positive. Okay, so that would be letter C, 3.4782. Okay, so this one says simplify the expression. We have cosine of 3/2 x plus 4 times, and I know it's times because it's squish, times cosine of 1/2 of x plus 4 plus sine squared of x plus 4 minus 1. So I notice these two things are multiplication, and they all have an x plus 4. So what I can do is when you're multiplying exponents, you're technically adding. So I can add the exponents 3/2 of 1/2 because they have both have the same basic cosine of x plus 4. So that's why we can add the exponents. So what is 3/2 plus 1/2? That is 4/2, and 4/2 is 2. So now you can rewrite this as cosine square of x plus 4, right? And then this then bring down the plus sine square of x plus 4, and then you have a minus 1. So then what you're going to have to do is use some kind of identity. So do you see any kind of identity we can use? Yes, I see some kind of Pythagorean identity. You have this, you remember you've seen this before, cosine square x plus sine square of x equals 1. So yeah, the only difference we'll definitely use this one. The only difference is our x is not x, it's x plus 4, but that's okay. X is the same thing as x plus 4. So you could just replace this whole thing with positive 1, right? Because it equals to 1. So this whole thing turns to 1, and then you still have this minus 1, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, so that would be letter D. Which of the graph below represents the equation y equals 2x minus 20? So we don't have to graph it completely. We could just use some clues. And maybe we can eliminate, maybe we don't have to graph it completely. So what do we know? We know it's a linear line. It is in the form of y equals mx plus b. And we know that our slope is 2, positive 2, or 2 over 1. And our b is negative 1. So there's a lot of things we can eliminate. So our graph has to be a positive slope. So that means our graph has to somehow head to the right. And then our b is not negative 1, it's negative 20. So, and also it must have a y-intercept of negative 20. And then our slope is positive 2. So it's gonna have to look something like this, right? Okay, so is it A? No, because the slope is negative, right? Is it B? Yes. The graph is positive, but does it have a y-intercept of negative 20? No, it has a y-intercept of positive 20, so we can't use that one. Is it C? Slope is positive, and yes, the graph has a y-intercept of negative 20. Let's double check on D. Okay, D is also positive with the y-intercept of negative 20, so which one is it going to be? So our slope is positive 2. So what we could do is we could try to figure out how if it rises 2 and runs 1, or we can also find another point. What I could do is, was our graph? let's find the x-intercept real quick. So how do you find the x-intercept? You set y to 0 and then solve for x. Divide this by 2 and you get x equals 10. So you have an x-intercept of 10 and then y-intercept of negative 20 and then our slope. So is it C or D? So on C, we have a y-intercept of negative 20. Our slope is positive, but do we have an x-intercept of 10? Yes. D, it does not have an x-intercept of 10. So the correct answer would be letter C. Question 5. A radioactive substance decays exponentially at a rate of 3% every year. If there are initially 500 grams of the substance, find the amount of substance remaining after 20 years. So we're dealing with exponential, and an exponential function of decay is a of t equals a naught. Then it's going to be 100%. And because it's a decay, oh wait, yeah, it decays exponentially at a rate of 3%. So that means we're going to do a minus 3%, raise it to the t. Okay. So all we got, this is a typical exponential decay function. And then we got to fill in the blanks. So a naught is your initial value. So what is our initial? It was initially 500. And then what is 100% minus 3%? 97% raised to the t. Then what we're going to do is 97% as the decimal would be 0.97, raise it to the t. Okay, so here's our equation. Now they want to know the final amount after 20 years. So all you got to do is replace t with 20, and you are good. Okay, put this in the calculator and you'll get your value. Two, seven, one, eight, nine, 717. Okay, there's your answer. So that would be rounded to letter D, right? That's the closest to like twos. It doesn't say round to the nearest, but if you round to the nearest 10, it would be 271.9. Question 6, round 1.24453 to the nearest hundreds. Pretty simple. You just need to know your place. Two is the tenths, four is the hundreds, right? So here's four. You look at the neighbor. If it's five or beyond, you round. The neighbor is four, it's not five or beyond, so you do not round. So your final answer will be 1.24. Find all the solution on the equation cosine of 3x equals 1 over the interval 0 to 2 pi. So what we're going to do is ignore, what I would do is ignore the 3x. Figure figure out like what figure out what degree, because if you look at all the choices, it's in rating, not degrees, but ratings. What radians or what degree in radians is going to give you cosine of +1 from 0 to 2 pi. So you will need to know your unit circle. Where is cosine +1? So I think 2 pi would work because it has an x coordinate of 1 and a y coordinate of 0. I also think pi over 2 will work because, wait, no, it will not work. Um, because it has 0. No, we want a positive, we want an x coordinate 1. I think 2 pi is the only answer. Yeah, because cosine, yeah, which coordinate gives you a cosine of +1? Yeah, so I think it's 2 pi. And then remember, now what you could do is bring down this 3 by 3x, and then divide both sides 3, so you get x equals 2 pi over 3. So which of these answers is the, so yeah, and we need a 2 pi over 3. So I think it could be A. 0 is technically the same thing as 2 pi, right? 0 is technically the same thing, 2 pi. So maybe A could work. Could be work. No, we need a 2 pi over 3. So we don't need this 1/3 pi. Um, let's see, gonna work. No, 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 no. We need a 2 pi over 3. D is not gonna work because we never had a pi over 3 in our answer, right? So I think it would have to be, yeah, 2 pi over 3. So yeah, what I did was ignore this 3 first, figure out what radiance or what degree in radiance gives you a cosine of 1 that was 0 and 2 pi, right? And then I bring down this 3x and then solve for x, so I get 2 pi over 3. So I think A will work. Okay, question 8. If f of x equals 2x plus 3 and g of x equals x squared plus 7, which of the following represents the composition of Goff? So this is not multiplication, this is composition. So in composition, you need to know that you always have to start on the right hand and make your way to the left. So start on the right hand side. So what is we're going to start at f of x, and we're going to put f of x into the function g. So what does that mean? So here we have f of x equals 2x plus 3. So you're going to put this or substitute this into the function g of x. So what that means is we're going to use the function g of x. The only difference is we're going to replace this x with f of x or 2x plus 3. So it's going to be 2x plus 3 square, and then don't forget the plus 7 because that is your g of x. And then clean this up because you don't see our answer. So what is 2x plus 3 squared? You could do it the long way. You could say 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3 that way. That would be, boil that out, that'd be 4x squared plus 6x. And then 3 times 2 is 6x. And then plus 9. So you get 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. And then you also have this plus 7 at the very end. Now, if you want to do the shortcut, you can do the shortcut. The shortcut is a plus b squared equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, right? So if you do this rule, you just got to figure out your a. So our a would be 2x and my b would be 3. So once you know your a and your b, put it in the formula and you get this. let's see, still don't see my answer because they kind of cleaned it up. So this is going to be 4x squared plus 12x, and then 9 plus 7 is 16. Do you see our answer yet? Not yet, because they probably factored out some things. So I think between the 4x squared and the 12x is 16. I believe you can factor out a 4, so this is going to be x squared plus 3x plus 4. Do you see your answer now? Yes. I see my answer is letter D. Question 9. We have some foiling to do. 3x squared plus 12 times x squared. Yeah, there's nothing. You just gotta FOIL it out and clean it up and be careful. So let's FOIL this out. What's 3x times x squared y? So if you get lost, just write it out. 3x times x squared y. So if you recall your exponent rules, when you multiply exponents, you add. So this is going to be 3x, and then this has an invisible 1, so you're multiplying, so you're adding. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And then you have a y. Okay, so the first one is going to be 3x cubed y. Keep on going. What's 3x times negative 2x y? So that would be, I guess I could do this in my head a bit. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And then x times x is x squared, and then you have that y, right? Keep on going. 3x times 4y is 12xy. Now do the same thing for the 12. So 12 times x squared y is 12x squared y. And then 12 times negative 2xy is negative 24xy. And then 12 times 4y is 48y. Then can we collect like terms or cancel things up? I think we can. Let's see. We have the 3x cubed y. I think these two terms can be collected, right? Because they both have an x squared y. So what's 12 minus 6? Positive 6. And then what else can you collect? The 12xy and the negative 24xy. So what's 12 minus 24? Negative 12. And then finally you have the 48y. Okay, so that is your final answer. So it's cubed 6x by 1 and then square. Yes, the letter C. 3x cubed. Oh no, we're missing it's not C. Is it A? 3x cubed y plus 6x squared y minus 12xy plus 48y. Yes, letter A. Completing the square, which of the following expression is equivalent to the quadratic 2x squared minus 8x plus 21? So they want you to complete the square. So how do you complete the square? Simple. So first thing I'm going to do is set this to 0. Then I'm going to move the constant, which is 21, move it to the right. So now you have 2x squared minus 8x blank space. And then on the right, you have negative 21. Then what I would do is I I usually would take half. So what do I put in this little book? Usually you take half of your base, you square it. But before I do that, it looks like I could take out a 2. So that's what I'm going to do. Factor out a 2, so this is going to be x squared minus 4x, and then blank space equals negative 21. Okay. Now what do I do with this blank space? You take half of your b. So if your b is -4, take half of that. That's -2. And square that. Right? Half of b is -4. I mean, half of your b is -2. Square that. That's +4. And then times by 2. Because you can't forget about the 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. So you're going to add 8 here, and you also have to do it on the right. So now you have two parentheses, x squared minus 4x plus 8 parentheses. -21 plus 8 is -13. And then what we're going to do is put this in factor form. So it's going to be 2 parentheses x, and then go backwards. What does half of your be? -2 parentheses squared equals to -13. And then lastly, move this -13 to the left by adding 13. So now you have 2 parentheses of x minus 2 squared plus 13. It looks like it's letter C. Question 7, I mean 11. Which of the graph below represents the function y equals x minus 3 squared minus 2? So what do we know about this graph? Y equals x minus 3 squared minus 2. I know it is a parabola or quadratic parabola. Why? Because the power 2, right? If it's a 2, it's a parabola, quadratic parabola. And what do I know? What else do I know? Um, you have a horizontal shift of 3 units to the right. And how do I know? It's because this x minus 3 is a horizontal shift, and you're shifting it 3 units to the right. What else do I know? This minus 2 is a vertical shift of 2 units down. Okay, what else? So what that means is we actually have a new vertex. So if you have a horizontal and a vertical shift, it's like your new vertex. Our new vertex will be at +3, 2. And what else do we know? It is concave up. So if you really want to be technical, this is what it might look. This is what it could look like. You have a vertex at +3, 2, and it's concave up like that. So we just need a graph that looks similar to that. Is it A? Maybe. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yes. Is it B? No. Is it C? No. No. Yeah, so I think it's A. Uh, Question 12. Find the union of the following intervals. So what you gotta do is it's easier than it looks. All you gotta do is just put in order. So these are like all x values. There's no y values involved. So this -5 is not a y value. It's actually an x value. So what we gotta do is just go from the smallest x value to the largest. So my smallest x value looks like it's negative infinity. And then my largest x value looks like it's at positive 14, right? And then it's included or it has a bracket. So that's our answer. So it looks like letter C. Question 13 says find the reference angle for 124 degrees. So reference angle is not the same thing as coterminal, right? I think of the reference angle as the acute angle. So what I would do is first locate your angle, your theta, 124, so you would 0, 90, 180, right? So 124 is right at approximately right here, right? And so we're technically in quadrant two. And to find, so what we got to do is find the reference angle, this small angle. So I'm going to say theta prime, which represents your reference angle. And you just need to know the rule. So the rule, check. I think it's just theta minus 180 minus theta. Let me double check. Double check. Yes. So if you're in quadrant two, the rule for reference angle is 180 minus your theta. That's it. So it's going to be 180 minus 124. And that gives you 56 degrees. So my theta prime is 56 degrees. Right? That is letter D. Question 14. Given two ordinary six-sided dice, what is the probability that you'll roll a three and an even number? So probability. So what is the probability that, so you're given two six-sided, you have two dices, right? And you roll them, and each dice has six sides. What is the probability that you roll three and an even number? So when I hear that word and, that either means addition or multiplication. So let's first figure out what is the probability that you will have a three. So in the first side, there's six sides, and then there's only one three sides, right? There's only in a six-sided side, there's only one of the three, so that's gonna be one. And then what about an even number? So you have one, two, three, four, five, six. What is the even number on, let's see, even numbers are two, four, six. So that's a, you have three out of six. Now, when we say and, that either means addition or multiplication. So, yeah. It means, so when you hear the word and in a probability, that means multiplication. So your probability is going to be 1/6 times 3/6, or 3/6 can be reduced by three, so that'd be one half. So 1/6 times 1/2 is 1/12. Okay, letter B. Okay, question 15. Solve the equation. So what I would do is not get rid of the fraction. What I would do is just FOIL out this -24. Maybe it'll get rid of the fraction automatically. So what is -24 times 5/8? A. That is going to be -120A for 8. So that's going to be -15A. And then what's -24 times 2? +48. So as you can see, it got rid of the fraction immediately, and then went down this 3A equals -12. Okay, then what I would do is, before I move things around, select like terms, so you can collect this 3A and this -15A, right? That's going to be -12A. Okay, go now move the 48 to the right. It's -60. Divide this by -12. I get 5. So 8 is 5. So that would be letter Z. Question 16. The dot plot below categorized 20 individuals in an apartment building by the number of screens they regularly look at their daily lives. What percentages look at 2 screens or less? So, yeah, so what you got to do is, how many people are there for 2 screens? Wait, how many people are there in total? So let's figure out how many totals. So on number 1, there's 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Or screen 2, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Screen 3, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Screen 4, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Screen 5, there's 2. Okay, put it all together. Get 20. Okay, so percentage, so it's going to be out of 20. Now, what we got to do is look at 2 screens or less. So how many people? So it's only 2 and 1. So how many people for screen 2? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about screen 2, 3? So 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 out of 20, and then times by 100, get your percentage. So 8 out of 20 times it by 100, you get 40%. What do you Okay, question 17 says solve the following quadratic inequality. So this one is a testable method problem. Um, it's a little bit longer. explain. So what you got to do is first make sure there's nothing on the left, right. Make sure there's nothing on the right. All right, the zero's on the right side. If there's not, if it's isn't a zero, move it, right? Get it zeroed out. And then what I'm going to do is look at the symbol. So it's less than equal to. What that means is we only care about the negative side. What do I mean by negative? I'll explain. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is solve for x. So what can I do? Should I try to FOIL this out? What is x minus 3 squared? That's going to be x squared minus 2ab. So that's yes. That's minus 6x plus 9 plus 8. And then I'm going to set this to 0 because I want to solve for x for right now. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is FOIL out this minus. So it's going to be minus x squared plus 6x minus 9 plus 8 plus 0. And bring it up a bit. Negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1. And then maybe get rid of the minus. So divide this by negative 1, everything by negative 1. So this doesn't factor out nicely. I have to solve for x, but it doesn't factor out nicely. So what I could do is I could technically use the quadratic formula. So yeah. So let's do that. So quadratic formula. Uh, A is 1, B is negative 6, and C is 1. So it's going to be x equals opposite of b, which is 6. So b squared, I could do that in my head. That's 36 minus 4 times ac. Over to a. And then let's simplify radical 32. That can be simplified as 8 and 4, and then 4 could be broken down as 2 and 2. And then 8 could be broken down as 2 and 4. Plus 1, 4 broken down as 2 and 2. So this simplifies as this is a pair of 2, so that's 2, and then this is a pair of 2. So that's 4 radical 2. Wait, yes. 4 radical 2. Okay, so now it's going to be x equals 6 plus or minus 4 radical 2 equal 2. And then divide everything by 2. So 6 divided by 2 comes as 3. Plus or minus 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then we have that 2. So we have two x values. Here, let me erase. So now what I'm going to do is put it on a test line. So the smaller number to the left and the larger number to the right. So my smaller number is 3 minus 2 radical 2. And then my larger number is 3 plus 2 radical 2. So you have 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then what we're going to do is put it into f of x, and f of x is technically this. Okay. So I need a number in region one, I need a number smaller than 3 minus 2 radical 2. So what is this? This is actually evaluated. It's about 0.7, and then if you put this in the calculator, 3 plus 2, it's about 5.8. Okay, so let's test region one. I need a number smaller than 0.17, so I definitely can use -1. Replace x with -1, so it's -1 minus 3 squared plus 8. -3, -1 minus 3 is -4 squared plus 8. That's going to be 16, and then you have a -16 plus 8. That's -8, which is technically minus, so I don't care about the number, I just care about the sign, so I'm going to put a minus. Then I need to test region two. I need a number between a 0.17 and 5.8. So maybe 1, right? So go and plug in 1. So it's going to be minus, we'll replace x with 1. So it's going to be 1 minus 3 squared plus 8. So 1 minus 3 is -2, which is +4. So I'm going to put a plus sign. And then I'm going to test region 3. So I need a number larger than 5.8. So maybe I could do 6, or I could also do 7. So it's negative, and then replace that with 7. So 7 minus. So that's 8. 7 minus 3 is 4 squared plus 8. So that's 16. So you have -16, which is 8. That's -8. Okay, so it's a minus. So if you go back to our original inequality, we cared about less than equal to, so we only care about the negative side. So we only care about region one and region three. So that is going to be A, right? X is less than 3 minus 2. So yes, it's from -infinity to 3 minus 2. So that's a synthesis. And then X is greater than 3 plus 2 radical 2. Yes, that is technically region 3. Okay, so this is along the video. This is it called the test point method. So if you are confused or if you want to practice more on test point method, you just look at the supplementary video under test point method. There should be a video under test point method under supplementary video. Okay. Question 18. So find the solution of the system and equation. So I'm just going to do elimination. Here's equation one, here's equation two. And then what I would do is get rid of the x. So I think I would have to multiply the entire second equation by -9. Because on the top you have -3x. If I multiply the entire second equation by -9, -9 times -113 is going to be +3x. And then when you add them up vertically, they disappear, right? So I haven't done anything with the first equation, so it's going to be 6y minus 3x is 15. Then I'm going to multiply the second equation by -9. So -9 times 5 ninths y is -5y. -9 times 9, yeah, -5y. And then -9 times -1/3 is +3x. And then -9 times 10 is -90. Add them up, that's cancels. 6y minus 5y is y. 15 minus 90 is -5. Okay, so it's either B or C. Now let's find x. So to find x, you just plug in y. I'll plug it back into the first one. So it's 6 times negative 75 minus 3x equals 15. 6 times 75 is negative 450. Add 450 to both sides. 450 is 15. 465. Divide this by negative 3. I get negative 155. So x equals negative 155, y is negative 75. So it's 155, y is negative 75. So letter B. Okay, question 19. You gotta FOIL this. They want you to simplify this, so I'm gonna FOIL this out. So on the top, x squared plus 3x minus 4 factors out as x, x, and then what two numbers multiply -4 and add, it gives you 3. Definitely 4 and 1. And then I'm gonna use +4 and -1. And then on the bottom, you're left with x minus 1. So you want to FOIL this out, factor this out so something cancels, so x minus 1 cancels. So now you're left with x plus 4. D. 20. Decide to invest some money so that it has a chance of paying you back in return. To evaluate your options, you look at different aspects of your potential assets to determine what affects the values. Average price, public perception of the company, running the assets, average price growth, and then the positive slash negative function, and the number of new regulation governing the industry. According to the perception embraced by your model, which of these are dependent variables? So dependent is basically the y value, right? Yeah, dependent is on the y value. It's not an x value. Yeah, so what could be a possible y value? Is it A, average price growth, B, public perception, C, average price growth, or D, average price? Um, I think it would be, I'm gonna say average price and average price growth. So I'm gonna say lower D. So D would be a dependent, meaning it relies on the X value. So dependent is like a Y value. So the best Y value I could think of on this problem would be the average price and average price growth, right? Yes, letter D. Okay, this one, here we're given a graph. What is the pressure range of the following data? So don't be careful. It is not from 0 to 10. So it's not Z. So you have to look at the graph more carefully. So what when we're doing interval notation, we go from the lowest to the highest. So these are all pressure is all the y values. So we don't care about the x, we don't care about anything about time related. We only care about the smallest y value to the largest. So look at the graph. What is my smallest y value? It looks like it's at this point. That is at 5. So let's say we bracket 5. And then what is our largest y value? So the highest what point would be right here, and then that y value is at 10. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be letter B. Find the y-intercept of this graph. So this one's easy. This applies, how do you find the y-intercept for any graph? You simply plug in 0 into the function, right? So wherever you see an x, plug in 0. So 0 plus 2, 0 squared minus 9, and then 0 minus 5. 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 squared 0 minus negative 9. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Okay, put it all together, you get positive 90. So letter C. Question 23. Here we're multiplying fractions and then more minus. So how do you multiply fractions? You multiply across. So let's do this part here. So multiply across, not crisscross. So what's negative 32 times 4? That's negative 128. And then what's 5 times 8? It's 40. And then over here, you have a minus, and then you also have this extra minus. So two minuses, and then you have 22 over 10. What happens is two negatives becomes a positive. So now it's going to be positive 22 over 10. And then over here, what is negative 128? Negative 128 over 40. Guess maybe it's 4. Yes, it can be reduced by 4. So this is going to be negative 2. Consistent. Okay, good. I'm glad I reduced it because now if you look at the bottom, we have a 10 and 10. That's our common denominator. And then just add up the numbers. So what's negative 32 plus 22? Negative 10. And then what's negative 10 divided by 10? So that would be letter D. Note 24, determine the length of x. So on this one, this is a tricky one. Look at the tick marks carefully. Um, they're not correct. They're not aligned correctly. On this one, there's two tick marks, but there's no side links. Over here, there's two tick marks here, and there's a 20. See, these aren't lined correctly. So there should be a value here, right? Not here. So it's a bit off. So this is going to be C. Not enough information yet. So the tick marks have to align with the side length. So over here, there's two tick marks and have the side length 20. So that means there should be some kind of there should be an X here or some kind of value. There's nothing here. There's two tick marks, there's nothing. So it's wrong. So it's gonna be C. 25, the amount of energy required to heat an apartment is equal to 1/20th the open volume of the apartment, the volume occupied by a solid object such as a bed or a refrigerator. If you rent an apartment building in the shape of a cube length X, and the volume of all your possessions and furniture takes up 40 units of the volume, which expression represents the amount of energy required to heat your apartment? So, yeah, this one's a little bit strange. So what we'll do is we'll come up with an equation. Let's do V naught, V naught the open volume equals ET, and then ET means total volume, minus EP, which represents what is it, the possessions? Yes. So it says an apartment is equal to 1/20th of the open volume. So you're gonna say 1/20 V naught equals to 1/20 times T minus VP. Um, so then we plug in our value, so it's 1/20, and then we don't know what the volume T is, so I'm gonna call it X, so it's gonna be X cubed. This volume is a cubed, minus the volume of the possession, which is 40 units, so it's gonna be minus 40. So that's our answer, 1/20 times X cubed. That's letter D. Okay, 26, what is the area of this parallelogram? So the area of this specific parallelogram is just the base times the height. So our base is 30, and then this height is 7. You don't need to do any more triangles. You don't have to worry. You don't have to figure out this unknown side length map. It's just base times height, and 30 times 7 is 2 times. So it's going to be 27. What is the volume of the cylinder? So this one, you just have to know the formula. You have a cylinder, so you need to know the formula. What is the volume of the cylinder? I believe it's going to be um, so volume of a cylinder is this equals I r squared times h. My radius is 8, and then my height is 20. That gives everything we need. Just fill in the blanks and just leave the pi icon on that. So when you do that, 8 squared times 20 is 1280 pi. So it's 1280 pi and then 7 meters cubed. This one, solve the equation. We have log base 3 of x plus 7 equals log base 3 of 2x plus 5. You do not have to put it in power form. Instead, see on the left, they have a log base 3, and then on the right, they also have a log base 3. It's a good sign because you could just ignore it and then bring down your leftovers. So on the left, you're left with x plus 7. And on the right, you're left with 2x plus 5. And then go ahead and solve for x. You just subtract the x from both sides. 7 to 2x minus 1 is x plus 5, and then subtract 5 from both sides. So you get x equals to 2. Question 29, what is the range of this exponential function y equals to e to the x minus 2? So if you want to graph it, that's perfectly fine. This is an exponential function, and I know it's an exponential growth. And how do I know it's a growth? Is because if the base is greater than 1, our base is e, just technically about 2.7. So that's how I know it's a growth. Then I also have a vertical shift of -2. So when you're dealing with exponential and you have a vertical shift, that is your new horizontal asymptote. So that -2 is also my horizontal asymptote. So we have a horizontal asymptote at y equals -2. So you don't have to draw it nicely, just can kind of do a little rough draw. So my horizontal asymptote is at -2 here. We can draw a little dash line like this. And then it's a growth. I don't know what my y-intercept is, but it could be something like this. It doesn't have to be that nice because we know it's a growth and we know it doesn't go below y equals -2, right? So that's what it roughly looks like. So what is the range? The range is all the y value. So what is my smallest y value? It looks like it's at -2, but we don't really include it, so it's going to be parentheses -2. Now what is my largest y value? Positive. So that is going to be letter A. Okay, question 30, tan inverse of radical 3. So yeah, we got to, what this is really saying, and you kind of need to know the unit circle. What degree is going to give you a tangent of positive radical 3? So I'm going to figure out which button can I use. Can I use quadrant 1? Yes, tangent or y brax is positive. I can't use 2. I don't think I can use 3. I mean, tangent is positive, but they're all, yeah, nothing is above 180, right? So we'll have to worry about 3. 4, no. So it looks like our only quadrant is 1. So I think it might be 60 degrees. So this is how I know. Here's 60. It has an x coordinate of 1 half, a y coordinate radical 3. So what is tangent? It is y over x. So it's going to be radical 3, 2 over 1 half, right? As you can see, the 2's cancel, so we're just left with radical 3. So it's going to be 60 degrees. Okay, this one 31. Solve for the equation. So first what I'm going to do is move this -4. It's not in the radical, so you can add 4 to both sides. We get square root of 10 minus 1 equals to 4 plus 3 is 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to square both sides because I want to get radical. So on the right, 7 squared is 49. On the left, the radical disappears. You're left with 10 minus y. But then you solve for y, so you subtract 10 both sides. But 49 minus 10 is 49. and get rid of this minus y equals -39. Six. Okay, over here, I want to solve for y, so because there's only two sides, the left and the right, I can definitely cross multiply. So that's what I'm going to do. So this has an invisible one, so what's one times this? It's just itself, so y plus 21. You know what? I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do a part two because yeah, I'm going to stop here. I'll give me one sec. Yeah, there will be a part two here.